What does this Eagles draft say about Carson Wentz?
I'm head scratching a little bit at this pick. I really don't get it. I don't understand it.
Yes, they've lost some confidence in Carson Wentz, and it's not his ability, it's his reliability.
The Philadelphia Eagles have been in 6 playoff games, including a Super Bowl. Carson Wentz, in those 6 games, has completed
Hey, thanks for watching Numbskull News, and today we're talking about the Eagles' horrible draft. And it was horrible. I mean, you get a second-round pick, or a guy with a second-round grade in the first round. The second round, you get Jalen Hurts? What the hell are you doing? I mean, to me, it's indefensible. But for whatever reason, there's people in the media who are going to apologize and try to give rationale for this horrible draft that the Eagles had.
They like to carry 3 quarterbacks, not just 2. That's what this is about. Nothing more.
All right, well, that's asinine as hell. So you're going to draft in the second round your third quarterback? You know, at this point, Stephen A. Smith just gave up. He doesn't really care about this argument.
The only thing that this draft pick of Jalen Hurts says about Carson Wentz is that we question whether or not Carson Wentz is going to get hurt again.
I mean, it makes perfect sense to go get a quarterback. Carson Wentz is never available at the end of years.
It's 100% justifiable to bring in a good, healthy, developing insurance policy.
An insurance policy, I understand that. But you're going to spend a second-round pick when you really, really need help for Carson Wentz. In the draft, especially this year, there are guys who could be impactful day one for you. Jalen Hurts is not going to have that big of an impact.
The argument is actually that, no, it's just because he might get hurt. So instead of signing one of a million veteran quarterbacks you could take as a backup, you don't have to spend a second-round pick level draft capital on. Instead of doing that, you take on what you guys label a project.
I hate to side with Max Kellerman. I really don't like Max Kellerman, but he nails it right out of the park with this argument. Why the hell would you take a project quarterback in this second round? The Saints got Jameis Winston on a 1-year, $1 million deal. A guy with starting experience in the NFL. A guy who has won games in the NFL. A guy who's thrown for an ass ton of yards in the NFL. Think what you want of him. That's a steal. That's a great get as a backup quarterback. The Dallas Cowboys just signed Andy Dalton for $3 million as a backup. A guy with 9 years starting experience. That's what you do when you're trying to go for it. You don't spend a second round pick. This is dumbass. I know the New England Patriots have done this forever. But they're the New England Patriots. They had Tom Brady. They weren't worried about it. They were trying to develop a young quarterback so they could put him back on the market and get some draft capital back in return. That's all they were trying to do every time they did that, whether it was Matt Castle or whomever. But when you have a young quarterback, you know, who has legit skills, who could be a badass. I mean, I like Carson Wentz coming out of college. Trust me, as a Cowboys fan, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe the freaking Eagles got this guy. Because I know he's good. I know he has injury history. But think about it, they're all freak injuries. It's not like he keeps, tearing up the same knee or the same hamstring or back issues. It's not what it is. This guy could be healthy for the rest of his career. You just don't know. So the fact that he got hurt the last several years, you're going to draft and waste a second-round pick on a guy who's not going to get on the field except for some gadget plays? That's dumb.
The way that you see the Saints, for example, utilizing Taysom Hill or how they plan to in the future, one could make an argument that the Eagles might try to utilize Jalen Hurts in a similar fashion.
Jalen Hurts will play and has a style a little bit like, as an athlete, a move-around style, can move the pocket. They like to do that. Doug Peterson is a very clever schematic coach. Sean Payton loves Taysom Hill. He can play around.
You just scratch your head a little bit as to why you would make this move in the second round with the 53rd overall pick.
I had to include that clip from Seth Joyner, former Eagle, at the end there, because he's absolutely right. I mean, look, everyone wants to make this comparison to Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill was an undrafted rookie free agent. No one was taking a chance on the guy. And he floundered in the league for a while, got cut. New Orleans came in, got him off the scrap heap for nothing, for nickels. And are using him the way they're using him. And you're going to take a second-round pick and try to turn him into Taysom Hill, who no one's ever gambled any kind of real draft picks or real money on ever. That doesn't make any sense. And by the way, if Taysom Hill was such a great thing to get, they would have never, the Saints would have never went out and got Jameis Winston to be the backup. Because, I'm sorry, Taysom Hill isn't even good enough to be a backup quarterback. He's a pure gadget guy. They're trying to make a case that Jalen Hurts could be a backup right now. This dude's never started in the NFL. All right. He's got a lot of work. He's a project. He's got a lot of work he's got to put in just to be at the level to be a backup quarterback. Forget about being a starting quarterback right now. He's a couple of years away from that. I like Jalen Hurts. I think he can develop into a starting quarterback one day. He ain't going to be there next year. He may be a viable backup quarterback in 2 years. Maybe the 2021 season. That's about as next year? No. You're going to throw in some gadget plays. Well, good luck with that shit.
You said you're going to get Carson Wentz the help he needs. But the price is steep because teams ahead of you have needs where it doesn't fit. They're going to want your second-round pick. They refuse to get him the elite receiver he needs, and they let that guy go to the division rivals who came in second last year? If I am Carson Wentz and I believe in myself, I'm going to demand a trade right now.
Now, that sounds like a lot of sports show hyperbole, all that kind of crap. Because, of course, the Eagles would not trade him. But I wouldn't blame Carson Wentz at all if he demanded a trade. Like, what in the hell are you doing? It was reported the Eagles were trying to get up in the draft to get one of the big-time receivers for Carson Wentz. The price, of course, was a second-round pick. The teams can ask for whatever the hell they want to, and they know the Eagles are desperate. And these teams weren't willing to let guys that they really wanted to slip down and get picked up by Dallas or get picked up by somebody else looking for defensive help. So they weren't willing to do that at all. At least not on the cheap, they weren't. And so, again, Max Kellerman's correct. They're going to let this top-notch receiver in CeeDee Lamb fall to the Cowboys and let the Cowboys snatch him up?
Because if you knew the Eagles' offense, CeeDee Lamb, while great and is a better receiver than Rager, isn't what they needed. They needed vertical speed.
Were they
were
trying to
one
trade
of the
up?
slowest teams in the NFL last year. So because they wanted speed. They wanted Henry Ruggs. That's who they wanted, was the vertical speed. They didn't want CeeDee Lamb because he doesn't necessarily do the exact thing that they needed.
This is the stupidest argument. Dan Orlovsky, he's an idiot. He just is. I don't know why he's on these shows. I mean, at least some of the other guys have once in a while viable arguments for whatever. This guy's just an idiot. The Eagles didn't want CeeDee Lamb. Are you freaking kidding me? I'm sorry. Are you fucking kidding me? They didn't want CeeDee Lamb because he wasn't fast enough. Dude, Henry Ruggs has got a few things he can do, and he does them great. He'll be an explosive player for the Raiders. No doubt about it. But CeeDee Lamb runs every route, runs them precisely. He's a playmaker. He can go up and get the ball. He can stretch the field. He can work in the slot. You could put him literally anywhere on the field, and the man makes plays. Yak yards like crazy. The Eagles don't want that, huh? The Eagles wouldn't want that? They couldn't have traded up and... Of course they could have. Of course they wanted him. Of course they did. They screwed up. That's what happened. Come on, Jalen Rager. I mean, look, I'm a TCU fan. Jalen Rager's a pretty good, decent wide receiver. I think he'll have a nice career. He won't have the impact of a CeeDee Lamb. Nowhere close. He'll never have anywhere near that type of career. And you picked him up in the first round. He's a second-round guy. The Eagles screwed up. They screwed the pooch, is what happened. And they panicked and got Jalen Reagor. That's on them. And this idiot, Dan Orlovsky, what a moron.
Whether you think they wanted Lamb or Ruggs, they were in talks to trade up. What they weren't willing to do was give up Jalen Hurts to pick the...
Just as another example how stupid Dan Orlovsky is, he just said whether it was Ruggs or CeeDee Lamb. And then at the end he said, Ruggs, they wanted Ruggs. They were trying to trade up to get him too. They were trying to trade up in the draft. Those are the two guys.
Would turn into Jalen Hurts in order to move up. What's hard about that? And if Carson Wentz is so amazing that they want the ball in his hands all the time, why draft a guy who, according to you, Dan Orlovsky, you're going to take the ball out of Wentz's hands 10 times a game or whatever it'll be?
And he screams, it's a smart organization. Why? Because you say it? Because somebody else said it? It's not smart to take a project player, to take a gadget guy in the second round when you have a young, possible superstar quarterback. And you just paid that quarterback huge money. And you're not going to surround him with as much talent as possible. Instead, you're going to draft a guy he's not even going to be good enough to be your backup.
Maybe there's a backup quarterback out there that we can develop that we can also use on game days to give us 54 guys on a roster that we can use in a +1 run game with quarterback reads or red zone. Or maybe we'll put both our quarterbacks in Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts on the field at the same time. So on game day, it's not like we dress 48 guys. It's like we dress 49 guys.
And by the way, Dan Orlovsky, in this interview or in this show, he got on to Max Kellerman saying, well, you don't know what the Eagles wanted to do. You don't know where they had CeeDee Lamb's value or Henry Ruggs' value. But Dan Orlovsky seems to think he knows exactly how they're going to use Jalen Hurts. Who says they're going to have him do all these gadget plays? Maybe a few, maybe one or two a game. But he's acting like, oh, he's going to be a big part of the offense. You don't know that. Dan Orlovsky has no inside information.
Is he can give you
All
something
right,
that you don't want to expose Carson Wentz to.
Gadget player, got it. Second round pick.
Okay.
And there Max just shuts it down. Exactly right. Oh, a gadget guy in the second round. Great. Good job. Good job. Good job, Eagles. Other people found guys like him, Taysom Hill, for instance, as undrafted rookie free agents. Like I said, you can get a backup quarterback, a solid, great backup quarterback right now, or at least you could have at that time. You know, Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, and there's still guys available. They can come in and help you win games if and when Carson Wentz goes down, which, you know, he goes down every year. But who knows? He could have 16 healthy games, get into the playoffs, and never get hurt. You know, it's like I said, it's been a freak thing with Carson Wentz. Even as a Cowboy fan, I'm not counting on Carson Wentz getting hurt. I'm thinking he's going to be there every year. I don't blame them for wanting an insurance policy, but you don't spend a second-round pick when you have a young quarterback like that, and you just paid him huge freaking money. To me, there's no excuse for that draft. That draft sucked, and the Eagles are going to pay a price, and I'm laughing. They're going to pay a huge price for that. What's the price? Not enough talent. You got a guy on the bench that might come in for 3 or 4 snaps a game, and Jalen Hurts, when you could have had the best wide receiver in the draft. Whether you think that was CeeDee Lamb or Henry Ruggs or hell, Jerry Jeudy, who you could have got any one of those guys if you were willing to trade up and pay the price to get them. They weren't willing to do that. Instead, they were willing to use that draft capital on a backup guy, a project guy, a gadget guy who largely will never be on the field. Taysom Hill isn't on the field a ton. I mean, what does he get? 6-7 plays a game? Maybe? All right, let's call it 10 plays. Ooh, 10 plays a game. That's less than some drives. So you're telling me he's going to be on the field for one drive a game, and you drafted that in the second round. When you could have had a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who is a plug-and-play starter, Jerry Jeudy, plug-and-play starter, Henry Ruggs, plug-and-play starter. Any one of the three are going to start game one. Eagles could have had that. They could have had Ruggs. They could have had Judy. They could have had anybody. They chose Jalen Hurts. Hey, I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they suck. I'm glad they suck in the draft. I'm glad they screwed the pooch this year on the draft. I'm not even going to get to their deep draft. Who knows what those guys are going to do? We're talking first round, second round. You got to have those guys pop. Regardless, you can't miss on those guys. And just right now, on paper, the Eagles blew it. The Eagles blew it. There's no other way to look at it. And if you do, then you're not being objective. You're being a jackass. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.